The war in Ukraine rages on with no end in sight. Every night, hundreds of Russian drones and missiles are fired across the border, and Kyiv continues to suffer as a result of President Vladimir Putin's ruthless and reckless drive for power. Despite the devastating loss of life, destruction on both sides, and repeated rounds of so-called peace talks, the conflict shows no genuine signs of ending. Many argue that it is now time for a dramatic shift, time to strike directly at Russia's war chest and end the Kremlin's ability to fund the invasion. This is the position of Svitlana Romanko, founder and director of Razom We Stand, a Ukrainian organization demanding a complete embargo on Russian fossil fuels and a full end to investment in the country's oil and gas sectors. Romanko and others insist this is the most effective way to end the war. Without energy export revenues, Putin would be unable to fund mass recruitment drives, expensive arms production, or the construction of new military infrastructure. In a recent op-ed for the Kiev Independent, Romanko declared that Ukrainians desire a ceasefire and a just and lasting peace. Yet despite all the talk, diplomacy, and vague promises from Putin, the bombs and drones continue to rain down on Ukraine. She pointed to Russia's growing recklessness, such as a strike on Kiev that damaged the European Union mission building in violation of the Vienna Convention and killed 8 people, including a child. This attack proved once again that Putin has no intention of ending the war, no matter what he claimed in his recent meeting with US President Donald Trump in Alaska. While Trump expressed optimism, Russia's attacks only escalated, causing further destruction and death. The lesson is obvious. Talking to Putin does not work. He is skilled at deception, twisting narratives, and making promises he never intends to keep. He has repeatedly shifted the goalposts, saying one thing and doing another, showing no willingness to negotiate sincerely with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. If diplomacy fails, the remaining viable option is economic pressure, particularly on Russia's oil and gas sectors. Since the war began, Russia has earned more than $1 trillion, about 938 billion euros, from fossil fuel exports, with European Union countries alone contributing over 213 billion euros. This money has financed huge defense budgets, $102 billion in 2022, $109 billion in 2023, and $149 billion in 2024. The West has tried to weaken Russia through sanctions. Banks were cut off from the SWIFT system, central bank assets were frozen, and over $1 trillion worth of assets were immobilized within days of the invasion. International companies exited Russia, and waves of sanctions followed. In December 2022, the European Union capped Russian crude oil at $60 per barrel, leading to a sharp decline in imports. Through 2023 and 2024, sanctions expanded, targeting refined fuels, trade, and banks. By May 2025, the 17th sanctions package reduced crude prices further, and in July, the 18th package targeted the energy and banking sectors, blocked Nord Stream, and restricted transactions. The G7 also used frozen assets to fund Ukraine's defense through the ERA loans program. Despite these efforts, Russia's economy is now showing severe strain. At the St. Petersburg Economic Forum, Minister Maxim Reshetnikov and central bank head Elvira Nabulina admitted the country was on the brink of recession. In August, forecasts predicted zero growth for 2025. The National Wealth Fund dropped from $135 billion to just $35 billion. The ruble weakened, and a labor shortage grew as over 1 million were killed or injured. Prices for basic goods doubled, forcing hardship on ordinary families. Still, Russia keeps spending on war, producing drones, missiles, and new military structures. Putin has admitted that cuts are needed for 2026, but this is not enough to force negotiations. The energy sector remains his strongest lifeline, supported by China, India, Turkey, Brazil, and even continued European gas purchases. Putin's high-profile meetings with Xi Jinping and Narendra Modi suggest those ties will only strengthen. Romanko insists that Europe must strike harder. The United Kingdom's Foreign Office estimates sanctions have already drained Russia of $450 billion, including $140 billion in lost oil revenues. The shadow fleet has been blacklisted, but more must be done. She calls for a full embargo on Russian fossil fuels, a price cap reduced to $20 to $25 per barrel, and cutting support for LNG projects such as Arctic LNG 2. Secondary sanctions on supportive countries must also be enforced. Romanko stresses that Europe must avoid simply replacing Russian fuels with imports from other autocratic regimes or blindly relying on US LNG. Instead, it should prioritize renewable energy and efficiency. Every euro denied to Russia is a missile not built, a drone not launched, and a life in Ukraine saved. Putin ignores the human and material cost of his war, but he cares about money and power. Economic strikes are the best way to weaken him. That is why Ukraine has smartly targeted Russian oil refineries, depots, and production plants with drones and missiles. The less money Russia has, the harder it becomes to sustain its military. Experts warn Russia could require 4 to 5 years, nearly 2 million more casualties, and decades of effort to capture Ukraine entirely. Yet Putin presses on, confident Western sanctions will never truly cripple him, relying on China and India. Europe must act decisively. Diplomats suggest the 19th sanctions package may again avoid direct energy restrictions, which Romanko says would not be enough. She insists that true energy security lies in breaking dependence on fossil fuels, not replacing one dangerous supplier with another. Stronger sanctions could finally dry up Putin's war chest and move the world closer to peace built on justice and security. The choice now lies with Europe and the United States, whether to strike boldly or allow Putin's war to drag on.